Hello, everyone. There was an interesting paper published last month in JAMA Internal Medicine. So, this is the Journal of the American Medical Association for Internal Medicine. And the title of this is Estimated Number of Deaths Prevented Through Increased Physical Activity Amongst U.S. Adults. Um, so, let's go through this together. Previous studies indicate that a substantial number of deaths could be prevented annually by increasing population levels of physical activity. So, exercise prevents deaths. However, previous estimates have relied on convenient samples, used self-reported physical activity data, and assumed relatively large increases in activity, more than 30 minutes per day. So they're saying the problem with previous studies on this have basically not sampled a good number of people, or the sample is not random, and has some statistical sampling errors probably. And then it uses self-reported physical activity data, so people are just saying how much they exercise, so people could just lie or overestimate how much activity they do or underestimate how much activity they do. And then they also assume that you needed to have large amounts of activity, so more than 30 minutes per day or 30 minutes per day. 30 minutes per day of exercise is kind of like the general recommendation of exercise, because most of the exercise studies are based on 30 minutes of activity 5 days a week, which to a lot of people seems like a lot of exercise. I mean, in the whole scheme of things, it's probably kind of the bare minimum amount of exercise that we need as human beings, because generally, until modern times, everyone would exercise way more than 30 minutes. Before modern times, people mostly had manual labor jobs. They walked everywhere. They didn't have cars. So, in the, think of how people lived in the 1200s, or, in around AD 0, people walked everywhere. People probably walked 8 to 10 miles a day just in the normal course of their day, and they did manual labor. They were carpenters or farmers or masons. They did physical labor. So 30 minutes of exercise a day was very trivial. Like, no one exercised only 30 minutes a day. Everyone probably did hours of exercise a day. But today, with cars and most people having desk jobs, unless you just go out of your way to get exercise, it's fairly hard to get 30 minutes of exercise unless you're just going out of your way to get exercise. So anyway, that's their problems. So the potential health benefits of changing daily physical activity by manageable amounts is not known. So they're saying, maybe 30 minutes of exercise is kind of a big ask for people. What they did was they had a study called the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. And as part of this, it's a representative survey of a U.S. civilian non-institutionalized population. So this means non-military, not incarcerated, so not prison population and not the military population. And they oversampled for non-Hispanic blacks and Mexican Americans because they're kind of an understudied group. A lot of population studies in the past were done mostly in Caucasians, because generally that group would volunteer for studies more often, and just had the time and the economic capability of doing so. Race and ethnicity was determined by self-report and classified using preferred terminology. Okay, so they're basically saying they had a good sample. From 2003 to 2006, these participants aged 6 or older were asked to wear an accelerometer for 7 days. So at some time during this study, they used an accelerometer. So an accelerometer, our phones have accelerometers, and a lot of these people that have smartwatches and fitness trackers, they're basically accelerometers. And so they were giving accelerometers to these people and asking them to wear it for a week. They evaluated um, about 5,000 of 6,300 adults who were aged 40 to 85 with accelerated data. The ones that they didn't use were because either they refused to participate because they didn't want to monitor themselves. That was 13% of them. Then others had these accelerometers that malfunctioned or lost calibration, or they had no valid days with monitor data. Okay, so they basically used everyone that they could. And then they followed them up since 2003 and 2006 and see how many of them died. And then they they looked at the accelerometer data. And so people aren't self-reporting. The device is telling them how much they're exercising. And then they looked at how much it helped. So let's look at the graph. So they predicted the amount of deaths that you could be prevented by increasing the amount of exercise. So if you exercise 10 minutes a day, so 10 minutes a day, that's not a lot. Pretty much anyone can find 10 minutes a day to exercise. If you do 10 minutes of exercise a day, they could prevent over 100,000 deaths across the country. And then with 20 minutes, a little over 200,000 deaths. With 30 minutes, about 270,000 deaths. So you can see the first 10 minutes is really, you get the most bang for the buck. You get almost the same amount for the next 20 minutes. And then you kind of get a point of diminishing returns. I'm guessing when you get to 40 minutes, it's even less, and 50 minutes is even less. The rate of increase is slightly less. And then the important thing is, what percentage of deaths can you prevent? So they indicate that 10 minutes of exercise per day of moderate, I think this is, let's see what MVPA stands for. I'm thinking it's like moderate something. Oh, here we go. Moderate to vigorous physical activity intensity. So it has to be moderate to vigorous, okay? It can't be just going for a walk. It has to be something that gets your heart rate up. Usually the measurement for moderate is like 70% of your maximum heart rate. So that would be like going for a jog or doing some calisthenics, but not just a stroll around, not like walking your dog around the block. That's very like light exercise. So 10 minutes of moderate to vigorous exercise prevented 8% of total deaths amongst men, 6% among women, 5% among Mexican American individuals, and 6% amongst non-Hispanic blacks, and 7% amongst non-Hispanic white individuals. All right, so if you look at it kind of all together, it's probably about 7%. The greatest effect is amongst men. So just 10 minutes of exercise per day reduces risk of death by about 7%. That's pretty good. And so I think this data tells us how important exercise is for our health. And so we know from all the COVID videos I've done that exercise is extremely important for COVID deaths. It's also important for like cancer prevention, heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes. It's like basically, if someone could take exercise and make it a pill, it would be like the most incredible pill ever created. It would fix basically everything. So it's something that everyone can do, and just 10 minutes of exercise can prevent a significant number of health problems that lead to death. So I think that is a good take-home point from this video and from this study that was just published on January 24th, 2022. All right, thanks for watching.